And based off of that post that she posted with the link to my free tool, I found my first, second and third client. And essentially that's the way that dataSights has evolved, is basically by working with people with real requirements, finding common problems, and finally after about 6 or 7 months we now have sort of 3 products that have been approved. We're the first add-on to have 3 products approved for the Xero reporting add-on marketplace. But it's definitely, this presentation is not a punt about dataSights or our products, but instead it's meant to help you guys sort of realize that you don't need to use a reporting add-on to do custom awesome visuals and reporting and etc. That you don't have to pay a BI person or an IT person, that we all have the problem of multiple data sources and data stuff in SaaS platforms, but we also have the great benefit that there's some fantastic tools out there that are free, and if you know just a few tips and tricks, that you can actually start developing stuff yourself. Obviously not everybody wants to do that, but it's about understanding these processes and then demystifying the box that you'll evolve and be able to achieve some of the things that maybe you want to achieve. So that's pretty much the agenda. I won't go on too much about the background. It is covered it there pretty much, which saved me. We just did this cool slide with different countries and stuff, but that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And the main way that I think, and hopefully you'll be able to identify and find things relevant, but since it's such a small group, I think we're just going to mix it up a little bit, do something I wasn't planning on doing, and maybe just if you could introduce yourselves and say what you're aiming to get out of this meetup tonight. If you don't feel like doing it, that's absolutely fine. I would abstain personally, but yeah. But that way we can that way I can definitely make sure that we try and answer some of the questions that people have. So, do you mind starting? Sorry.
My name is Jen Pezzett and I own a bookkeeping firm. I presently, I've tried the add-ons, but I presently work in Excel to do my visuals. I am looking for something that the deep dive on, but also to quicken that process as well, to make it more efficient and quicker for me, and just to develop my product.
Okay, that's good. We can definitely talk about it. Tracy?
Hi, I'm Tracy. I own an accounting firm called Cloud Accounting, and Kevin's product really caught my interest because I often have clients saying, who of us here have been in Xero? And you go into the report filters and you see you've got sort of 7 days there. So, you know, by establishing a key and bringing the different dimensions together. I've used QuickWin in the past and I found that a really cute little tool, but yeah, again, looking for a bespoke reporting tool, not finding the big boys that are really catering for my SMB market.
I'll pass.
Yeah.
I might pass as well. I'm the professional heckler. I'm married to I'm here to make sure he's actually doing work. Although he stays at this stage.
I'm Amanda Redwoods. I'm from Integrity Cams, that's my company. I'm a BAS agent and I work mainly in Byron Bay. Just moved to Brisbane, so I'm interested in actually meeting people like me, and I want you to tell me why I should use your products. I don't know anything about it. Something like that.
So I'm Gregory Hall. I work for a company in London office that does recruitment marketing. I'm the CFO in that business. We use Xero, we've used it for a couple of years, and we also use Salesforce as our CRM. So just reporting and data, reporting and data is really important for us, and we're always looking for better ways of doing it and improving the way we work. So yeah,
my name's Kim. I work for a bookkeeper. Mostly I've used Milo in the past, but I've moved nearly all of our clients have Xero. I find the reporting a bit wide on compared to Milo. So it's Cashflow and forecasting that I'm interested in seeing what we can get out of it.
My name is Patricia. I'm from Brazil and I'm here in Australia not a long time. So even I have a lot of experience with some softwares, it's my first time working with Xero, so I'm here to get more information about this. That for me it's a new system, new software.
My name is Letícia. Also, I'm from Brazil, and I have background in accounting. So I want to know more about account, about system here in Australia. So yes, I'm here to meet someone like as me.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
My name's Brock. I'm an accountant working for a small firm on the north side. I'm just keen to find out a little bit more about this program. We're looking for add-ons like this to provide some.
I can attest to that. Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Brock.
My name is Colleen Tarrant. I'm from Innate Business Advisory in Bantax, Brisbane. I'm a bit of a learning junkie. Anything that's going to improve my client experience and knowledge about Xero money.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I'll try and.
We love you, Colleen. We love that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. That has helped immensely, and I'm feeling pretty confident now. So this is great. Not just saying. So just to quickly iterate over the problem, I've got the stat off the internet, so it must be true. 64% of SMBs currently have, on average, 2 to 3 SaaS platforms, and that's expected to increase to 7 platforms within 2 to 3 years, which is great because it helps small businesses obviously grow. Bad because when businesses hit sort of scaling points and then to switch all the rest, we know that bit. But for this particular purpose, you own that data in each one of those systems. If you want to get some holistic reporting or get a view on it, CFO view, for example, and that's where in the last 18 months, tools like PowerBI.com, Amazon QuickSight is not even 6 months old, and Google Data Studio is still in beta. Google Data Studio is free, Amazon QuickSight is $9 a month per user, and Power BI is free depending on how you want to use it. I'll show you the different ways that you can use it. But the bottom line is, think of it this way, that the current reporting add-ons have sort of developed all their own visuals, whereas you've now got the big giants who are now throwing a lot of emphasis because self-service analytics tools are, hot stuff, etc. And these products are progressing at a massive rate monthly. Power BI gets a monthly update with just a crazy amount of new features. So be careful because sometimes you update and things don't work anymore. But yeah. Okay, so we heard some people saying they sort of fall into this category, some to that category, etc. But let me first just start with these 3 things. So there's 3 things that you're trying to solve when you're doing reporting. One is data sourcing, obviously getting your data all in one place. The second is report development, coming around through to more the visualizing side, etc., not just the financial statements. And then report distribution. So the question here is, who is your audience? Is it an external audience or is it an internal audience? And basically by asking all of these questions and answering them, you're going to be able to help figure out for yourself in sort of which one of these sort of tranches that you sort of land up in. And it's very frequent that most of my clients have actually been in this fully automated route. Now they're sort of down in the custom route, sort of similar to your own situation. And now they're looking to say, okay, all right, so let me start at the beginning. So in the custom route, you've got your Excel exports, whether it's out of Xero, etc. The nice thing about Xero is obviously is you can meld a whole bunch of different data sources together. You see a lot of Xero files where there's high net worth clients who've got 4 or 5 Xero files, and that's the only way that they can really do non-financial statement reporting, because the add-ons are good at financial statement reporting, but other kind of reporting, not so much. So you find a lot of people in here, and obviously Excel is an incredibly powerful tool. So this is what I like to call the sort of report development phase. Like that's where you're figuring out, do I have the necessary data? Do I create the visualizations that people are actually interested in? And how am I distributing these reports? Am I screenshotting and emailing them? Am I emailing spreadsheets? So it's a really, really important phase, and it's one that, you should keep touching the screen, sorry. And it's one that you should, it's definitely not a bad thing. The bad things, obviously, as you're experiencing, is that, sorry, what was your name again? Jenny, is that it's difficult to maintain, prone to, time consuming, and errors can creep in, etc. So when you're looking to automate something, what do? You look at the biggest pain point and you try and eliminate it. So in this case, and in most cases, it's data sourcing that's the pain point. In Xero world, we're really lucky because we've got a plethora of tools such as data tier and quick win developments, etc., which help you pull down data directly. There are some other tools like Blendo, which are really good at helping you get access to a bunch of other data sources, Google Analytics, you name it. There's just Salesforce integrations, for example. Blendo's got a Salesforce integration. And what these tools help you is get data from different places and into one place, whether it's an Excel spreadsheet or a cloud database. Depends on what you want.
Kevin, sorry,
Yes.
are all these things pulling down out of Xero, or do any of them put up and then pull down?
So some of these Excel plugins, they definitely do push up into Xero as well. To focus in on those kinds of tools quickly, they're very good at single file, but as soon as you start doing multi-file operations, then they can be a little bit more troublesome, because if you think about it, what you're doing is with the spreadsheet, you're connecting to one organization and you're pulling down the bank transactions, and then you're connecting to another organization and you're pulling down its bank transactions or whatever data it is. So if you're in the world, and I've got some case studies where it's a person just dealing with one Xero file, then they're absolutely fantastic. Does that answer your question? Yeah? Okay. The natural evolution from here is from Excel to Power BI. The reason why that is because Power BI is actually made up of 4 or 5 different parts of Excel. It's not a new thing. It's Power Pivot, Power Query. It's a few things that have been in Excel for 5 or 6 years. Just Microsoft branded it as a new standalone product pretty well, because we've mostly all heard about it. But what it does do is it gives you a lot of help in terms of data modeling and visualizations. And the help they do it through is by these pretty awesome 2 to 3 minute YouTube videos. So whichever part you're battling with, say, oh, I want to know how to do a line chart, you watch a 2-minute video on that. Or I want to know how to combine data, you watch a 2-minute video on that. So it is a nice way to get on there. Why that's an important thing to do is because when it comes to report distribution, having your reports in the cloud definitely help. All of a sudden you can tie into things like Zapier, things like Microsoft Flow. So all of a sudden you can schedule reports, trigger SMSs, all the rest. So there's definitely a few options in here, and all with not a heavy price tag at all. These Excel plugins are really good value for money, like they really are. It's one of the reasons I don't do them, because they're very good value for money. And then obviously we all know about fully automated routes, and this isn't necessarily just Xero reporting add-ons. There's a plethora of BI sort of data tools coming out and all the rest, but they do all kind of suffer from the same problem, is that if they solve your problem, it's fantastic, but if you want something a bit more bespoke, then you're sort of stuck and you're back to square one, and then you find yourself back in the customer, basically. So I realize it's a fairly disparate sort of slide. Is there any questions about it? Does that make sense? Can I communicate that okay? Why?
It makes sense to me. I'm not
Yeah, but you hear this all the time.
I don't tune out.
At least you're honest. Yeah. Okay, so we sort of debated on whether to have the slide or explain the slide, but I think it's definitely applicable to the group. So when most people see Xero plus Power BI, they think of this first line here. So what that means is that you log into powerbi.com with your work email, and you go and you get something called a content pack, and you hook up your Xero file, and you end up with this screen here. Apologies, it's not bigger, but
How many people have physically looked at Power BI?
That's where
and this is basically Microsoft and Power BI got together. Sorry, Xero and Power BI got together and had a little party, and they came up with this content pack. And the downside is that it's only for one file. You can't multi-file it up, and you can't really change the reports. You can't really add extra data to the data source. So it's a really good way to sort of just get a taster for it. Unfortunately, most people think that that's the extent of Xero and Power BI, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. The reason, if we move on to the next thing, and again, this is in the free tranche. I'm sure my wife's shaking her head because I had this bit today, but anyway. This red bit here indicates Microsoft Power BI Desktop. So what that is it's a free desktop application, like Excel, by Microsoft obviously, And what it is it's a report development program. And so instead of using Excel to do your report development, you use Microsoft Power BI Desktop. And it's just essentially, like I said, those 4 bits of Excel, Power Query, etc. But it's all just tuned around just doing report developments and visualizations, etc. What it allows you to do from the desktop version is publish to powerbi.com. So if we start again at the beginning, you can get your data out of Xero. It can be with an Excel plugin, or it can be with export to CSV, or with a tool like Blender or something like that. You then import into Microsoft Power BI, and I'll show you the application very quickly. This is very demo light. There's no demo bits. There's a bit at the end if you're interested. But basically, you import your data. It can be from Excel. It can be if there's a Salesforce integration, etc. You then do your combined reports, etc. And then you hit one button, and you publish up to powerbi.com. And now all of a sudden, next to the Xero content pack, you've got your own reports, etc., which is your data and your reports. So a couple downsides here is that it's really good for internal organization sharing, but the way that Microsoft has built it is that you can't share reports outside of your organization. And real time. So this process is a manual. You're importing the data manually and you're publishing it up, and that data is there, but it's not being refreshed from Xero real time. So it's good if you're, for example, got monthly management reports and you want to import your data, do your report creation locally, publish it up to powerbi.com, share internally within your organization, and you're set. Like, that is probably one of the best free routes to creating pretty much kick-ass visualizations of multiple data sources there is. Does that need further explaining? Is everyone sort of on
Xero accounts?
Yeah. So where you would do that is you'd pull down multiple Excel files from multiple Xero accounts and then combine them, and that's where your data model is basically built out of multiple Excel files. So it's pretty much the way you want to structure it. And then is this option, and this is by far the best option because this is the one that I developed basically. And what it does is essentially we run a bit of code that takes multiple Xero files and or data from, but let's just focus on Xero for now. It takes multiple Xero files and puts it into a cloud database that the accounting practice owns. And then you've got access to this data, which is refreshed daily or on demand, into both Excel with built-in functionality or Power BI. So essentially there's already connections between Excel to pull direct from the database and direct from Power BI. So you're no longer having to export to CSV. You literally just have to click a button and then that data is pulled directly into Excel or Power BI. And then Power BI, because they knew that this is for internal organizations, they've done this really nice thing called Power BI Embedded. And remember that if you want, it's not important, but the bottom line is that's the technology that we use in order to take Power BI reports and embed them in people's websites. So if you want to build a website and embed reports, they've got a mechanism for doing that. And that's how we sort of embed our reports or clients' reports. And the further benefit of this is that if you want to add other data sources, Pipedrive and Workflow Max is on the cards in the next couple of weeks, then all of a sudden that's when we start doing it. We've got one case study where we added to the Xero data from a 17-year-old Microsoft Access database system, which was the sales and inventory system for the company. So, yeah, does that make sense to everyone?
No.
Yes, of course.
What you do, is your bit the cloud bit only, or are you doing that bit on the right too?
It's basically 3 bits, which is copying into the cloud,
yep.
The report development, and also this website bit as well.
So the full thing.
It is the full thing, yes. The key difference though is that this bit in the middle is completely doable by yourselves. Like if you're that way inclined, if you want to do the report development, then that bit is completely owned by you and you can change it. So that's sort of the answer to being a reporting add-on, but not limiting you in terms of functionality or ability. Because if you want to use our standard reports, you're more than welcome to. or if you want to go and create your own or edit your own, etc., then you can do that as well. So that's the key difference, really.
And like bottom line of the screen, can the person there refresh the data?
Yes, every time that they refresh the page, it goes and connects to that data source. So as long as that data source is up to date, then it's real time essentially. Yes, 100%.
And what refreshes that data source?
That's one of our services refreshes that data source every evening, or there's you can do that on demand per client file from the web portal as well, kind of thing. So if you think about it, it's the same as the way that the other reporting add-ons do it. They take your data and they copy it to their own databases. So the difference here is that we just leverage Microsoft Cloud. You get your own database that we manage, and the nice thing about it is that you can connect to it with Excel, Power BI, or our reports connect to it, but you get full access to all of your data, so bank transactions, invoices, etc. So one thing that we've developed in the last 2 months is Cashflow actuals, plus I've just heard some people talking about cash flows, etc. I'll talk to that when we get onto the case study. But yeah, we basically added a view on here for cash flow actuals, accounts receivable and payable, that exposes it in Excel, and that's the first step to getting it into our reporting portal. Okay, so everyone okay? Alright. So just a few quick case studies. So this is our third client. They sync 31 clients every evening, and basically he said there's no reporting add-ons that sort of sell his services for him. He does this profit first service. So it's a two-step stage that we're doing for him. Basically, we sync all his data into his cloud database, and he's got access to it in Excel, and he's busy working away on reports that he wants to create. When he gets to that stage, then either he or I or our offshore resource can move it into Power BI, and then we can publish that into the reporting portal, and then we can expose that to his clients. So the idea is that for less than what like a normal add-on costs, he can have those custom reports and scale the service up.
This profit first is like a group, isn't it? Like a movement or a group, isn't
Feels
it?
that way, yes.
Yeah. But do they issue their own, because it's a book, isn't it?
It's like Marmite, like it divides a room, like previously.
But do they issue their own templates, or is it his own personal interpretation of profit first templates?
I haven't seen it, to be honest. In the UK, they've got a different financial year end per company.
Yeah.
So that's something that basically I'm working on whilst he's working on his stuff. And basically we're going to meet at the end, and then whatever he wants to do, I'm not sure. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Definitely, like I mentioned that to some accountants, and they're just like, profit first plan. It's just setting up bank accounts as far as I know. Okay, so this one is, and this happens a fair bit, where somebody comes and says, look, I want to automate data in, what's your solution like? And I go, well, it's obviously amazing, but really the best tool for the job is, since you're only dealing with one Xero file, is to just use something like dataSights. For another little tip, and I don't know if I'll upset anyone, but it's just the truth, so it's fine. Between dataSights and quick win development, this is really good if you've got just one or two files, like say one or two files that you want to pull down, because they charge a fee per file, whereas quick win development does like a monthly package. So just go and check out what suits you between the two. In terms of functionality between the two, I haven't used them like in anger, but they have definitely got a lot of functionality, both of them, enough to put me off developing a competitor basically. So really good tools for the job. So this is a uniform manufacturing business in Brisbane. This is one where I went to the business directly, or they contacted me. They turn over 10 million. The owner used mine for 16 years and then was moved to Xero a year and a half ago. And basically they had two requirements. One was to build out the management reports, and one was to automate his cash flow Excel spreadsheet. So with the management reports, it was pretty easy to do the Xero stuff. And then what we did is we did a manual import once a month from Access into the cloud database. And the cool thing about this one is that I've just sat down with one of the ladies who works for this business, and we basically spent the day doing some reporting together. And they basically manage their own Power BI reports now. So that makes me really happy when basically you start seeing people like doing their own, and that light sort of comes on and they get all excited, and I'm like, job done basically. And then in terms of the cash flow forecasting, so his accountant gave him a 3-way forecast from an add-on. The owner, before it even went to the bank, said, look, I don't understand these numbers, so I'm not going to give this to the bank yet, because I definitely won't get the loan. They needed a loan for expansion. So he basically came up with a cash flow forecast on his own. And he basically handed it over to me, and I was like, that's hectic. But with an acquaintance, chartered accountant friend of mine, we built the automated data entry, which I can show you a little bit later. And he's building up the rest of the 3-way cash flow forecast, sort of getting the existing 3-way cash flow forecast to work with the existing data. But when it's done, the key point is that he just has to click one refresh all button in Excel, and he gets all of his cash flow actuals plus the rolling forecast done. And I'll show you how that works. It was a lot more complicated than we thought it was going to be. There's data from spend money received, bank transactions, payments on accounts payable and receivable, overpayments due and unapplied, same for credit notes, etc. So as we reconciled like a $1 million business, then went to a $2 million business, then the $10 million business, more came out of the woodwork. But we're pretty confident now that we've got a very solid view of the data for cash flow. So basically, if you take the product, then there's just a button where you download Cashflow, and you'll download the cash flow data for all of your Xero files into one sheet, and then you can pivot table, filter it, etc. And I'll show you very quickly afterwards how we can do that.
Kevin, on that one quickly, you mentioned you refresh and it's there. Is there a lot of tabs you have to go through and remember, manually do this or update that? That just sounds really reminiscent of a client that paid BDO about $40,000, but it was like about 20 steps first before you could refresh the data.
So here is the cash flow data. Obviously, there's columns across the top, etc., etc. If we wanted to pull down other data sources, like we just connect the spreadsheet to, I think who this is. So this is the spreadsheet with built-in functionality connecting to the online database. And basically here you can see there's the cash flow data. So just once off, you just have to go click load, and that's the last time you have to do that. You've now got that query loaded in here, and you just have to go data, refresh all, and that will go, and I'm going up my phone, so we'll see how this goes.
I don't think you've answered my question in there. There's not 20 manual steps first. It's totally based on underlying tables.
Yeah, some of those cash flow spreadsheets, financial activities, actually, gave me that steps in there that, download this file, do that.
Like it was a 4-hour handover session.
So that automatically, so this is just a basic pivot across the chart of accounts. And this, while I'm here, I can go to show off the multi-file functionality. So obviously from here you do either a cash in, cash out view, or traditional view, or etc. But we just dropped the bank account name into the filters, and here we've got Xero organization ID. So actually at the moment what you're looking at is the combined data of 3 files. If you had a high net worth client with 5 files, then that would be it. And that's how easy it is to change.
Is this model dependent on having the same account codes, or are you working with report codes there?
It depends on the way that you want to structure the data. So we bring through account codes and reporting codes and account names. So we bring it all through, and then basically that's what my acquaintance is doing, is basically mapping that out for the client.
And you mentioned you were able to get to a 3-way cash flow?
That's what we're building up,
Right.
Exactly. And we've got here as well the full history. I've started at 2017, but we go all the way back to the history of the business as well, which a lot of people aren't actually interested in. But it just goes to show off the power that if you really want to build up an accurate, creditors days or debtors days, then there's a lot of information here. And these numbers, what they mean is basically we've got a table. In your practice, financial utilities has got 9 files. This number here relates to the name of the Xero file, etc. So yeah, I don't want to show too much, but
it's quite exciting about using Xero now. Our clients have actually got years of history sitting there, because in the past they would only ever have 2 years of history sitting there, and that excitement of a trend actually building up that they know that they can compare to and think about. Yeah.
And that's we've seen that whilst we were building this Cashflow actuals part, we were noticing that a lot of the other add-ons and tools have sort of 3 months history and stuff like that, but not blowing my own horn, but with my background, we've been able to very efficiently optimize the storage of data, so not the traditional way that people use it. So that's one feature that we definitely won't be giving up on. Just trying to think. Okay, so yeah, that was that company. That's the.
So when you do refreshes,
yes.
Does that pull out all the data again, or just things changes?
It pulls down all the data every time. Yeah, I think that's just the way that the query functionality works within Excel, but depends on how advanced you get. You can then use Power Query to then say add in a date modified field and things like that. So at this stage, the way I'm using it just pulls it down, but yeah, it's really upon the Excel user how they want to do it. But yeah. Okay. All right, so this was my second client, and this is when I kind of realized that around tax submission time and end of year, and then it's planning for the following year and all the rest of it. Essentially, we got this lady up and running without her actually creating an account in our system or doing anything. She basically made us standard users in her Xero files, which was she asked permission from her clients. We were then able to create API keys. We then synced her data, and what she wanted to do is keep track of her clients' KPIs that she set, but she didn't want them to have them logged into a system, so she just wants them emailed every morning. And essentially, so that is an example of the email that one of her clients gets every morning. So the cool thing, because we use Power BI under the hood, and this is something that you guys can do as well, obviously, is that you don't have to do just financial KPIs. So I'll give you an example later, where we're doing things like average revenue per customer, customer acquisition cost. The lady asked for this week actually, and then I told my other clients about it, and they were like, "Oh, please can we have that KPI too?" And I was like, "Absolutely sure." And this basically obviously just goes and compares the revenue for the month to date versus August of last year, and says you're tracking less than 0.2% less than the same period last year. And then we've got the same thing for this one. So this company is actually doing ridiculously well, because they did 200,000 in the same period last year. Okay, so with this case study, this is again an example of where an accountant wanted to expand their service offering. They wanted to offer a growth service, but they were doing that already in Excel, but they wanted to automate that process. So what they essentially offer is a lead capture service. So it's probably better illustrated here. Basically, the accountant goes and sets targets for leads, and which is obviously non-Xero data. Capture that from the CRM system, and that's sort of how he's able to add a value add onto his services, etc. So again, coming back to the fact that because Power BI is so flexible, because you've got access to all of your data in your database, you've got the ability to create things. So you know how we saw in Excel you had the ability to select multiple companies from the filter? this is when we log into the web portal, and here I've anonymized the data a little bit. If we had, this is the same report pulling through one client's Xero file. If you wanted to see the same report with 2 or 3, you would just check these other filters. This is when an accountant logs in, they see this report and they have the options to flick through their different clients' data. But when the client logs in, the filter is pre-selected and it's hidden. So they only see their data. So in other words, what we've solved there is onboarding. When you have a new client and on board and you go, okay, now I've got to go and set them up, etc., etc. No, you don't. You just have to set up their syncing record. That syncing record will go into the database, and their name will pop up on this list. And then you can see their slice of data through these things. So here's another example of where we're using the full history, so we can tell the growth in revenue over the last 6 years, financial years. I can show anyone later if anyone's interested, but the charts are all interactive, which I wish I could claim the glory for, but it's all just Power BI, not me. But if you click on a financial year, then all of these figures will just either highlight or bring up that financial year's figure. So this chart is trying to answer the question of, are you spending too much or too little on marketing? So if your customer acquisition cost is higher than your average revenue per customer, then obviously you're in massive trouble. Don't really see that unless it's a web-based business, but yeah, it's a good thing to keep track of. Some other interesting ones is the number of new customers, and that's one of the KPIs that's been asked for as well. Is there any questions about this kind of slide or this kind of chart graph?
So just in that, the last one there you mentioned new customers. How do you kind of putting that out? How you identify a new customer?
A new customer? Yeah, so essentially it's all based on invoices. And if a customer is linked to an invoice that hasn't previously been mentioned in the previous 30 days, then he's a new customer. Yeah. So it's, yeah, a lot of people say, okay, so I see you've got customer acquisition cost here, so you're pulling that in from a CRM system? And I go, no, it's the standard Xero data. We could pull it in from a CRM system if you wanted to. But this is essentially just your marketing costs divided by your number of customers. So it's not the most sophisticated metric in the world, but compared to what people have, it's a pretty good indicator.
Because you can't track back historically and see how many customers you have in Xero, actually, can you? Which is something you could do if you save the file at a point in time. Because like the number's just increasing, you can never go back and say what was it. So it's an interesting method.
Yeah, that will bring us probably back to some of the, these are all client-facing reports, but we can obviously have reports for internal efficiencies as well, which that sounds like that falls into. Alright, so this one I'm pretty excited for, and this is again coming down to the internal efficiencies. And this is going to use that path we discussed where it's sort of source data, and then it's going to be Power BI desktop developed, and then up to powerbi.com. So this particular advisory firm based in Brisbane, they just want their reports for internal consumption. So it doesn't really make sense for them to use our reporting portal. So we're just going to publish the reports that we develop straight up to powerbi.com, and they're going to consume it internally. Alright. And these are the reports that they've requested, and I'd love to show you them when they're visualized, but we haven't done them yet, so we'll try and see what's up next. But okay, very quickly on this one. So it's top 10 Australian accounting firm. We've done the first part of work. We haven't done the second bit, but we do have workflow maps for a client coming up next week. And essentially, this is one with a high net worth client that I've spoken before. They've got 4 or 5 Excel spreadsheets linked together, and then more lookups and summaries, all sorts of stuff going on inside there. And essentially, we don't really need to do that. Well, they don't need to do that anymore because they can download all their data into one place, and then they've rehooked their graphs and spreadsheets to work off this new source data. And you can imagine with that many Xero files, they've got a lot of operational efficiencies that they need to do. I've spoken to some accountants at big firms who actually get their accountants to log into Xero, each individual Xero file, to tell if there's unreconciled bank transactions or when the day last bookkeep was, or etc. etc. So now that they've got access to all of their data in one place, they're able to build up some internal reports. Let me just quickly switch over to an example of that. Or not. Yeah, maybe later, sorry. Okay. Alright, and then the last one. Probably my favorite because I just enjoy food. This bookkeeper was spending sort of 6 hours a month. She got a client on board, and the client brought on a lot of baggage. I'm gathering that's usually the case. This baggage consisted of 2 spreadsheets, a profit and loss summary and a wages and something else. And basically they only had one Xero file, but it was separated by tracking categories, and she was having issues exporting that out of Xero. So sync it to the database, she pulls it down into Excel, and basically we just rejig the charts to feed off the new source data stuff. So now instead of manually going and plugging in numbers from Xero into Excel, she literally just hits a button and it updates her spreadsheet. The next phase of this one I'm pretty excited for. I haven't got a human for it, which is unfortunate, but I'll keep trying. The owner of this franchise fast foods chain goes around once a month with the spreadsheet to each one of the stores. But what I'm suggesting to her is that she can, instead of doing that, or they can do that as well, obviously, but have a dashboard, a KPI dashboard for each one of the stores, and have it emailed them to them weekly, something along those lines, so that the managers know that their numbers are being tracked and they get a bit more visibility and all the rest of the good stuff that we can assume and know that happens off the back of it. So it's almost like just getting your data into the right place is a start to better things. This is something just to, if you engage with someone in a software service, it's fairly self-explanatory, to be honest. But just make sure that when you have a discovery session with someone, that you do the talking. Like, I've got this rule that I try and adhere to, and I've not done it yet, which is the 80-20 rule. If I'm helping someone trying to figure out what they're doing, let them speak 80% of the time, and not IT people and my sort of kind of people. We just love talking about our own stuff, and generally that doesn't really help anyone. Probably much like I'm doing. But yeah, definitely make sure that you get your requirements across. And to be honest, if they're not listening, that's probably a good sign anyway to not use them. Make sure you establish it first. And I don't really have a rule around talking about price or not price, but I just like to make sure that everyone's on the same page. When I started this company and I went down the route of targeting SMBs with big data, I knew that budget was always going to be a thing, and then I need to focus on it and make it as cost affordable as possible. So I like early on to make sure that there is no mismatch between what people think. And yeah, at the end of the day, just try and help. And that's pretty much it, to be honest. Let me just quickly show you. And I said I wouldn't do this, but
do people have any questions? Well, no, you call up his thing while they'll ask you while. See if you can multitask.
Kevin, I've got a question. Just in that, I know you said at the beginning that you wanted to make it about the work you've done and not necessarily the apps you're developing, but I'm still not quite clear on where you're heading with this, i.e. are you a consultant that I as an accountant would call to consult with my client, or is your end goal to develop a sandbox in which I can purchase and then do what you're describing myself?
It's a very good question. I think the reason I've always been a consultant, and I don't really like the word, but what I do like about it is that you really get the chance to listen to people's problems and you help them on an individual basis. So I'm less concerned about solving world peace and just more about making sure that the people that I help and the relationships I build get to an end goal.
You mentioned that Xero had improved a couple of your products. So I'm having trouble visualizing what those products are.
Yeah. So these are them.
I like them beautifully.
Excel automation, report automation, and interactive insights. So I'll just take you through them quickly. Mostly because I just like the banner images. And this is essentially what I was talking about with getting your data accessible by Excel.
Yeah.
And yeah, pretty much that's it. So this is the format that you're familiar with. This is a video on pretty much a little bit what I showed you earlier.
But is this still just an introduction to you and your services, or is this an add-on that I open up and do something with?
When you say an add-on that you open and do something with, what do you mean?
Well, it's a SaaS product that I put a website in, and it says, okay, here's step 1 through 5, and here's how you suck your data up, and here's how you develop
Yes,
reports.
but it's not automated. That's the problem.
Okay.
Not the problem, but that's the current situation. Is like when you engage with us, then we will set you up with how to get API keys out of Xero, and basically then we set you up with your cloud counting database, for example, and then we'll sync your Xero files into there. So we are building at the moment, like.
So basically, you're selling some time, and then you leave me with a solution. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Not automating that though.
Yeah, exactly. That whole like creating the accounts and connecting the usual way that you do. That's something that
Because
we're building
usually,
at the
like
moment.
people in my world, I'm sure you can all relate. You know, you go to the marketplace, you find something that looks pretty sweet, you book a trial for 30 days, and then there's some sort of website you go to where you do stuff.
Yes.
So there's no human that comes out and talks to you for
Exactly. Yeah. No, there's definitely that still with me.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, that's good. I'm just trying to get my head around.
Yeah.
No, humans are good.
Pretty much. I mean, we could build that automated process, but in the
I
spirit
think
of
what
a
you're
lean
trying to say,
startup.
like, because I've used QuickPoint a fair bit.
Yeah.
What you're trying to say is you're not going after that market per se, and that you really want to put yourself in front of the client, understand their needs, develop a solution, and then leave them that sandbox to then further develop.
Exactly. Yeah. Within that option. So with the second one, report automation.
Yeah.
This one with that. With that perfect accountant, she didn't have time to go and create an account, etc. All the rest of it. We pretty much did the whole setup, etc. But what the portal looks like and what it will be when it gets to when it gets to that stage is that when you sign up, you get a subdomain URL here, so cloudaccounting.dataSights.com.au. You can log in here, or your clients log in here. So when you log in as an accountant, you get access to, where you can view all the different dashboards that your clients currently get. So Tech Accounting has got 4 clients, and 3 clients in themselves. They get the daily emails, etc. And then here are the main reports.
So what you're saying is you would develop a default report that you could overlay on any of your clients' data files, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but this report is essentially, it's your report, if you know what I mean, or your set of reports. You can have more than one report, like here's the internal reports.
Yeah.
Because we've logged in as the accountant now, here you can see that he's got access to change, so this at the moment is the same report with all of his clients' data come through. If he just wants to select 1, 2, or 3, he does it over here. When his clients log in, they just see this.
Yeah.
If you want to develop internal reports, or if you want to report for just one client, then you can set that up as well, that when that client logs in, they only get theirs. So this menu is built up dynamically based on the amount of reports you have in your database. And here's an example of the internal reports. So date last book keeps, unreconciled accounts. These are the budget summary data that we pulled through, etc. And then the part that you're referring to is what we're literally building at the moment, is the ability to go and add organizations by yourself without my intervention.
And so that
refreshes and stuff.
draft pricing that you threw up just a few slides ago is your monthly ongoing fee for providing the engine to connect your accounting firm Xero files to this customized bespoke reporting.
Yes.
And I think what you're saying is, say, versus say a Spotlight, which would be one of the big boys in town, is Spotlight just gives you a bunch of canned reports and you can pick or not pick, but you're saying you can define what reports you want based on your priorities. I'll design them.
Yes.
Right.
Well, there's that gap in the middle.
Yeah.
Like you'll get whatever reports we have here. But if you wanted to create your own, or if you wanted an offshore person that you hired to create your own, we've got offshore people to create your own. That's where we're using Power BI in the middle to make sure that you don't hit limitations in terms of evolving and developing your own reports.
So is your revenue model a hybrid of, say, some price per hour of your time, and then once it's launched, then it's a set fee for the link with the Xero?
There's no onboarding cost. If it all depends on what reports you want developed. So put it this way: if there's reports that you want developed that other people will use and you're happy to share those, then I do those for free. You know what I mean? It's like that sort of situation. If there's something very bespoke that a client wants of yours, then yes, then there's an hourly rate either with an onshore person or an offshore person. But the model is that if you wanted to do it yourself as well, or if you wanted to hire someone else and the client got interested in doing it, that avenue is open as well. You know, and it's not meant to. They call I work at Fishburners, and they call SaaS providers like black box hostages. Because basically, you know, you sign up and it's all great, and then you start using service, and you're like, but I wanted to do this, and I wanted to do this, and then all of a sudden you can't. By using Power BI in the middle here, or if Amazon QuickSites gets better, or Google Data Studio gets better, I will swap to one of them in a heartbeat. But the benefit of doing that is that if you want to change something yourself, you can either pay us to do it, or you can do it yourself, or you can find somebody else to do it.
Yes. Like the original thing where you were saying the fully automated route versus custom route. People go from the fully automated route back to custom because they're fully automated. Don't give them the options to do this. You're offering fully automated with the added benefit of being able to say, well, we can customize what you're looking at.
Yes.
It's all being videoed, so you can use this on for marketing too. That's great. That's good.
Is it straight?
No. You keep moving.
Oh, sorry. But yeah, I guess has this helped anyone? Don't have to say yes. Yeah. Interesting. Awesome.
You said you were going to show us, I think it was that uniform one. Just some example, the long.
Yeah.
You're going to do a demo of.
Yeah.
I'm just interested, I suppose from my point, a lot of the customers I come across, so I've come from construction, they're good builders, but they're useless at finance, and they'll employ a bookkeeper once a quarter to come in and do the VAS, right? That's small business, can't afford much more than that sort of thing. So a lot of the reporting from these accounting systems are for accountants and for bookkeepers and not for business people without some financial background or knowledge. So I'm interested in your the front end user who's not the CFO, who's just a hairdresser, a builder. How easy is it for them not to have to go to their bookkeeper all the time to get the data out?
I suppose for that kind of user, I'd actually suggest that looking at the Power BI content pack, it is actually really, really powerful, and there's a load of reports, and that's all completely free and hooks up to one Xero file. So that sounds like a case where you have one business with one Xero file, and you're looking to just visualize the data a little bit, that kind of stuff.
Does that then go just into Excel?
That pulls it directly through into powerbi.com. You don't need to do any of the Excel bits or anything along those lines.
But there's nothing custom in there, is there?
No, you can't really customize stuff, but to be honest, there's probably about 40 or 50 different visualizations there. I would say there's probably
it's about 16 or 17 pages long.
Yeah. It's
just a standard pack, just click. But you have to have a Microsoft subscription, don't you, to use it?
I don't think so.
So who's your market then? I know you've talked a lot about multi-company, multi-files and stuff.
Yeah.
Who uses your stuff the best?
Yeah. So the first one is a accountant on the Gold Coast. He's got about 60 Xero files, and he's just a one-man guy with some offshore bookkeeping capabilities. The second one is a very similar situation out in Perth. The third one is a UK accountant with
So these are accountants adding extra, like you're saying, extra services that they can offer their clients.
Exactly. The one that signed up today, they've already got a business dashboard, so but they've hit limitations, etc. So they're looking to replace that. They've actually signed up first for instead of getting daily emails, they do a monthly management email, and they're basically going to send out a link to the dashboard to their clients to log in and stuff. So at this stage, that's pretty much the target market is kind of along those lines. But to be honest, there isn't anything specifically Xero about the solution. It's just that there is just a huge ecosystem around Xero, so it just makes sense to start there, etc. So yeah. Pretty much it.
So roughly how much did it cost them for the consulting? If we were, one of us was going to sign up.
Okay. So the pricing, could I speak to you after because I think it'll go on YouTube, and it'll be on the internet forever. You said it's cheaper than most of the other add-ons to actually run on a monthly basis, and then we've got per hour fees to do report development, and that ranges from like $20 an hour for offshore to $100 onshore, that kind of thing. So, but what I'm kind of hoping that will happen is that people will want to get training, so that hours spent will be doing the report with someone, and then sort of teaching people to do this, because essentially these tools are self-service analytics tools, kind of thing. So there isn't per se like a $3,000 fee to get up and running. There's no onboarding cost, and it's the pricing is on the website depending on which product you want. And if you want some bespoke reporting, then yeah, those are pretty much the prices. And yeah, it doesn't take very long to do most reports, to be honest. So yeah.
So an accountancy firm, do they buy the subscription per client, or are they buying it for them and I'm selling it to their client? How do you think they would use it best?
Commoditizing it is tricky, kind of thing. Most businesses in this sort of space don't really see the value. A lot of people still do gut feel, even though it's 2017 and all the rest. So it just depends on the accountants and how they want to sort of differentiate themselves potentially from other accountants. Or, you know, I think the fact that I think is huge, and I haven't got to them yet, but building out reports that do a MyOp style company order data report, or you know, just before BAS submission, have my bookkeepers done everything correctly, kind of thing. Drawing those sort of control checks in place, because you've got access to your full data set, and you've got Power BI, you can literally create any view of the data that you want, kind of thing. So probably pull an ATO information if you really wanted to, and things like that. So yeah, that's what it's designed for.
And you pulled out payroll data as well. I mean, when you say full Xero data.
Yeah, you want to say parallel data?
Payroll.
Oh, payroll data. Not currently yet, but yeah, it's all based on requirements. So the way that an integration works is that so with Workflow Max, with one of Heather's introductions, Laura's bookkeeping.
Cassandra, everyone knows Cassandra.
Everyone knows Cassandra. I'm doing some work for Cassandra next week, and basically she's got a client who wants some Workflow Max reports. So we are doing an integration for free, kind of thing, and then charging a small fee to do the specific client reports. But the important thing, what I'm excited about, is that when future clients sign up, or my existing clients, they'll get access to the Xero plus the Workflow Max data all for free, or for this normal subscription price. So over time, the ecosystem of connections and data pools, etc., will grow. So after Workflow Max is Xero Practice Manager, and then Power Drive. So yeah.
Any other questions?
One more question, sorry. Is it possible to sort of combine data, like, from different clients? Like, if you had 10 coffee shop clients, could you sort of combine them to create your own sort of benchmarks and things like that?
Yes, I had that exact benchmark question today from the client that signed up. And it's literally as simple as going in, and so these are the percolating clients, and basically going in and selecting all of these through. And then in Power BI, creating a visual, and you can right click, not here, but right click on a development page and say new group and create a benchmarking group out of it. So yeah, we've structured it so that you get all of your clients' data in a nice, easy to consume format. So to explain that a little more, is that in the raw data here, for those of you that are good at Excel, we'll only ever have one table for a particular kind of data set. And if you just want to see your coffee clients, which you know are IDs 2, 3, 4, and 5, that's how you can filter on just their data. So it's the same thing in Power BI, same thing in Excel. It's very easy to combine multiple files and then create reports or benchmark reports. It's a good one. Yeah.
Very powerful if you're going to niche as an accountant.
Yeah.
To be able to do that.
Awesome.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, Kevin, for your very interesting presentation. I've been watching and working and seeing Kevin's solution develop and evolve, and it is developing and evolving very, very fast. My recommendation, in all honesty, is if there's any interest you have in this, to get in now while he actually has capacity to give you the personalised service that he's giving away as cheap as chips at the moment. So that would be my, and it's kind of as he goes through his learning curve, one of the exciting things of working in this world is if you jump in at the early stage, you actually get to be part of the evolution and the development of it and see that happen yourself. So that would be my recommendation. Like if you give him a call in a year's time, I doubt you'll be getting personalised Kevin service. It will be his team of people around him. So that would be my recommendation. So hopefully you did find it interesting, really powerful, and you've got all of Kevin's contact details to follow up with him and let people know about it. So thank you very much for coming tonight. Please eat more pizza and drink more wine. And there is supposedly an AI hackathon or something happening down there, so you can go and have a peeky boo.
They look like they've got delicious canapes.
Yeah, they did look like that. Delicious canapes, okay? So thank you for coming along tonight. And can I do a special favour, because Kevin is new, he's got a great new website here. If you did like the solution and you're happy to give him some sort of testimonial that he can use on his website, can you send him an email or send it back to me, just like 10 words with your name and your sort of background, etc., would really help him out. Sort of growing that credibility in the community. Okay? Thank you very much. Cheers.